Welcome to CTV News Trendline with Michael Stittle and Nick Nanos.
Nick, 155,000 members of the Public Service Alliance of Canada are on strike. It's a major political headache for the federal Liberals, and the opposition parties are really putting pressure on them. Let's listen to Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and the Liberal response.
It would be one thing to increase the cost of the bureaucracy by 50% or $20 billion a year. It would be another to have a strike. But to do both of those things at once takes a special, unique kind of incompetence that only this Prime Minister could pull off.
Is it important to your government to force public servants to go into the office to do the remote work they've been doing for 3 years?
Well, we are not negotiating in public right now. The negotiations happen at the negotiating table, but the reality is Canadians have every right and expectation to see the services that they expect delivered. We understand it's really important to respect labor rights, and there's a labor disruption right now. It's the first day. Let's make sure that while this is going on, we are at the negotiating table.
Nick, so Prime Minister Justin Trudeau wants to negotiate behind, not out in public, but the political fight is out in public. What do you make of this?
Well, Michael, I think we should just say, I think we should declare it's Christmas for the Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre. It's kind of, luck counts in politics. And, this strike right now looks like it's a piece of political good luck for Pierre Poilievre and the federal Conservatives. It gives them a platform to put a spotlight on how government has grown under the Liberals, and also put a spotlight from a Conservative perspective on poorly managing the strike and its impact on Canadians. So expect Poilievre to kind of hammer away and to add this to his narrative. He has the narrative that he's been pushing, that Canada is broken, and he's just using this as another example of the problems that the countries are on, the problem that Canada is going under with the Trudeau Liberals. So, and you know what? If there's legislation, back to work legislation, I don't think he's going to be voting in favor of it. He's going to want the Liberals just twisting the wind on this as much as possible.
Speaking of that, the Liberals have this deal with the NDP to help them stay in power until, maybe up until 2025. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, as part of that deal, says his party will not support any sort of back-to-work legislation. So Singh is obviously on the side of PSAC and also putting pressure on the Liberals. So what does this mean for that governing deal?
Well, it's going to be under a lot of stress. At some point, the Liberals are either going to have to cave in to the requests of the union, or they're going to need to find someone somehow to vote in Parliament back to work legislation. The New Democrats, I can't see the New Democrats. I'd be very surprised for Jagmeet Singh and the New Democrats to support any kind of back to work legislation, because, man, that'll just kill them in the next federal election, right? Because they're supposed to be the pro-worker, pro-union, pro-labor party, and they've got to stand up. So now, Michael, what does this mean? Could there be an election? God almighty. The thing is a lot of times elections happen on issues that no one ever anticipates in. I'm not sure what the exit strategy is. Can the Liberals afford to settle on the terms that PSAC is asking? I think they'll probably come to an arrangement on the money front, even though that'll still be tough for the Liberals. But the conditions of work could be a major precedent. It would be a major precedent both for the unions and for the federal government as an employer, because this has to do with the terms of conditions of work, which usually unions are not overly active on. So could the unions make gains in terms of pay? Absolutely. Could the Liberals give them more in terms of pay to settle this? Sure. On the return to work and hybrid work, I think that's a big question, because this could be, and I would say not this could be, this will be precedent setting. But Michael, the other thing is crazy things have been known to happen. I bet your bottom dollar the Liberals, the Conservatives, and the New Democrats are furiously doing public opinion research that if there was something that happened that could trigger an election, what might be the outcome. So buckle up.
Oh my goodness.
Buckle up.
So the last time we had back to work legislation, again, the NDP voted against it, the Conservatives supported it, and you're saying if it's to their strategic advantage, perhaps we're in a very tricky situation here.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So think if you're the Conservatives, you're going to want the Liberals to twist in the wind for as long as possible. Like I don't understand what the Conservatives would benefit with back to work legislation, because are Conservative voters going to be upset that their taxes won't be processed in time? Duh, no, right? This is not like this is a different type of work action. It doesn't have to do with what I'll say critical infrastructure, the operation of the economy. This has to do with government services. Will this mean inconveniences for Canadians? Absolutely. Will it mean longer wait lines for things like passports? For sure. But I think for the Conservatives, if they do support the legislation, it doesn't make sense for them to do it quickly. It makes more sense for the Liberals to be in the hot seat and to look like the Liberals can't settle the strike and that they have to turn to Pierre Poilievre to force PSAC to go back to work.
Nick, there was also some interesting House committee testimony this week. One of them was on possible, allegations of foreign interference in our elections. We heard from the major campaign leaders for the major federal parties. I'm curious. I mean, we're not saying that there's going to be an election next week, but are Canadians concerned about the integrity of our elections?
Well, I think the reality is that Canadians believe that there are lots of, why don't we call them, unsavory shenanigans going on in our democracy, and I think many Canadians would not be surprised that there are foreign interests that are seeking to influence specific individuals. Whether there's so much foreign interference to change the outcome of the last election or any election, likely not. It's very, very unlikely. The twist in this is the Trudeau Foundation. And that's a significant risk for Justin Trudeau because this foundation was established, in honor of his father. And it's clear that the family is a significant player and actively involved. I say family excluding Justin Trudeau, very involved, and they accepted donations from some significant individuals, significant donations from individuals with connections to the Chinese government. And this is just not good for the Trudeau brand because this has to do with a foundation that does have the Trudeau name in it with his, members of his family who are active in the foundation, and in this particular case, approved accepting the donation from the Chinese individuals in question. So this is not good news for Justin Trudeau or the Liberals because it connects foreign interference to the Trudeau family. It does not connect it to Prime Minister Trudeau. So that's perhaps the good news, but it does connect it to the family. So I think that's a risk for the Trudeau brand.
Nick, another House committee testimony we heard from the Public Safety Minister about the Liberals' gun control legislation, which has been studied for I guess almost a year now after an amendment that they walked back. It seems like more sort of trouble for them that they can't get this thing through. Do you see this as a major issue for them up ahead, especially with rural voters?
Yeah, well, not just rural voters, because rural voters are more likely to oppose or increasing gun control. They're not opposed to gun control, but increasing gun control. But gun control is very popular. Putting more restrictions is more popular in a lot of the high density urban areas that are very important to both the Liberals and the New Democrats. The interesting thing is that this is usually an issue that both the Liberals and the Conservatives want to engage on. For the Conservatives, it allows them to mobilize their core. It allows them to raise funds whenever there's any specter of greater limitations or increased regulations related to gun control. So I'm not surprised Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives are happy to see this, happy to debate this and to oppose the Liberals. For the Liberals, even if they don't succeed because of lack of support from the Conservatives and also the NDP. Even if they don't succeed, they still get to say they tried, and that the Liberals, that the Conservatives and the NDP were obstacles to greater restrictions or enhanced gun control. I think the only party that really never really wants to talk about gun control are the New Democrats.
Yeah,
because you know the New Democrats are an interesting coalition, right? They've got high density urban members, but they also have members. An important part of their caucus is in rural and remote Canada, that where gun control is never popular. And you know, in the past, it's always been much more difficult for the leader of the New Democrats to tread that line within their own caucus on gun control, because they'll have everything from downtown Toronto, let's ramp up gun control, to Northern Ontario, for example, where you know, caucus members in Northern Ontario would get a lot of heat from local constituents if the government was increasing gun control and the Democrats were supporting it.
I find that a lot of people in maybe our urban centers may be surprised by that. Yeah, that you know, but we've had groups fighting for more gun control, you know, pushing NDP leader Jagmeet Singh to do more, but his party really is in a tough position there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, so watch Jagmeet Singh turn himself into a pretzel, a parliamentary pretzel, trying to kind of walk the line on this. You know, for the Conservatives, they're going to have a clear position. For the Liberals, they actually have a clear position, and then whether, you know, if they succeed, they'll be able to say that they delivered on stricter gun controls. If they fail, it's still a political win, because they get to blame the Conservatives, and they'll also probably blame the New Democrats. I think for the Liberals, they want to talk about this because it helps differentiate them from the New Democrats. And you know, you can bet your bottom dollar that in the next, here's a prediction, in the next leaders debate, when the Liberals are trying to kind of make sure that progressive votes come under the Liberal tent, you can bet your bottom dollar that the leader of the Liberal Party will be attacking Jagmeet Singh to say, hey, you didn't support us on stricter gun control. What's up with that? And to use that as a wedge issue to push progressive voters into the red tent.
Nick, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about our latest preferred PM numbers and green energy. Nick, it's always fascinating to talk to you about who Canadians would prefer to be their prime minister, and also the latest information on what issues matter the most to Canadians. So what's the latest data?
So latest Nanos tracking, which is done every week, actually has a pretty tight race between Pierre Poilievre and Justin Trudeau on the preferred prime minister front. Pierre Poilievre at 28, Justin Trudeau at 25. Margin of error for the survey is plus or minus 3.1 percentage points 19 times out of 20. So statistically, a toss-up, factoring the margin of error. Jagmeet Singh's at 18. He's up 2 points in the last 4 weeks. Blanchette at 4, Mays at 3, and Bernier at 3. But the key takeaway here is that usually whoever is the prime minister has an advantage. Justin Trudeau, who is the prime minister, does not have an advantage right now. And it speaks to perhaps the level of fatigue that some Canadians might have with Justin Trudeau. But maybe we should just say, not massive coattails for Justin Trudeau right now for the Liberal Party of Canada. And, you know, right now, at least Pierre Poilievre, very competitive, even though he is not the prime minister today.
What about the number one issue that Canadians feel is facing us?
Yeah, you know, when we check out the 4-week change, Michael, if you check out the kind of bar graphs, you can see that jobs and the economy is the top issue at 15%. And this is an unprompted national issue of concern. Healthcare's at 13, down 4 points. So it looks like fewer Canadians are focused on healthcare now compared to 4 weeks ago. Inflation's at 12, up 3, environment 9, housing at 6. Housing's up a little bit. Inflation's up a little bit too. But when we look at the numbers, it looks like an increasing focus on economic numbers. So you look at jobs and the economy at 15, inflation at 12. Why don't we roll in housing at 6? And, you know, basically you can see that, you know, basically 1 out of every 3 Canadians right now are focused on meat and potatoes economic issues, and that all those 3 issues collectively are on the rise and are more likely to be on the radar. Healthcare, a little less so right now.
So the economy more important these days, and the environment is always a top issue as well. And I find it interesting that German President Steinmeier was in town this week talking to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau about those two very things: clean energy and an economic opportunity for both of our countries. Now, Nick, you've done some research on clean energy partners and how
Yeah.
Canadians feel about Germany and how that country feels about us.
Yeah, and we remember also that the Chancellor of Germany visited
Mm,
earlier. So I
that's
don't know,
right.
anyone who's important in Germany has realistically been visiting Canada, including the Chancellor, now President Steinmeier, who came for the state visit with Governor General Mary Simon and also met with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Mhm.
We've just released a study on Canada-Germany energy relationship with the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, which is a foundation. And this study was with Atlantic Brücke, Nanos, and Konrad Adenauer Foundation. And what's interesting is that there's an appetite in both Germany and Canada for greater cooperation. And check out the numbers. We did a survey. It was last year, but it's still relevant. We did a survey of who Canadians see as their most positive partner and who Germans see as their most positive partner. And, for Canadians, not a big surprise. When you look at the slew of countries that are Canada's major partners, you can see that the United Kingdom is at the top. I think it's like almost 9 out of every 10 Canadians see the United Kingdom as a positive or somewhat positive partner. But check out who's second. It's not the United States, not France. Germany is second
That's
at
amazing. Yeah.
80%. 8 out of every 10 Canadians see Germany as a positive or somewhat positive partner.
Hmm.
And when we did the same survey in Germany, when we asked Germans the exact same question, who are your most positive partners? Not a big surprise. France was at the top, right? Among Germans at about 8 out of every 10. So not a big surprise because those are the two big anchors right now in the European Union, now that we exclude the UK. But look who comes second. Canada comes second with 3 out of every 4 Germans thinking that Canada's the most positive partner. So, what's interesting in this new study that we've just released, which is an expert study on energy relationships, it gives recommendations on green hydrogen. How do we make our targets? What's clear is that in the recommendation that the experts have made to government, we need to do a number of things. First, we're not doing a very good job at building the transportation infrastructure and port infrastructure that we're going to need for our green economy and for our future export economy. So we need to urgently invest in that. Second of all, we got to speed up the permit and regulation process for energy projects, but we're not going to meet any of these targets, unless the speed of permitting and approval of energy projects, green energy projects, is at the same pace of the ambition. And I think that's the problem. And the other big recommendation is that we need to create an environment for organized German companies and Canadian companies together to invest in these new projects. So there's a lot of opportunity based on this study for the Konrad Adenauer Foundation. And but you know what? There's a risk that we won't meet these objectives because the infrastructure won't be there. Permitting won't be fast enough, and just won't happen.
I mean, in Germany, I assume the clock is ticking. They're trying to move away more from Russian gas. They're looking for other opportunities, but if we don't have the infrastructure to actually get clean hydrogen over there and other energy sources, it seems like an uphill struggle.
The other thing that's very clear from the German political business and government leadership is that they want Canada as a partner. They want Canada as an energy partner. They want Canada as an industrial partner. And the thing is in a world where they're just weaning themselves off the Russians, I think the Germans would like to build stronger relationships with liberal democracies like Canada. And Canada, the polling shows, after France, Canada's really at the top of the list. So that's why this meeting with the visit from President Steinmeier is important, and for the Canada-Germany dialogue, it's really at a unique point in time, a tipping point that could really be elevated.
Nick, I think we'll leave it there for this episode. As always, thank you very much.
Okay,